There's a molecule that was discovered nearly 2 centuries ago, now common in energy drinks and dietary supplements, celebrated for supporting heart health and cognitive function. That chemical is the amino acid taurine. Recently, a study published in Nature suggested that taurine might accelerate leukemia growth. This headline was picked up by several mainstream media outlets, including the New York Post, People Magazine, Fox News, Vice, and many more. However, there is a very critical nuance here that many headlines missed. Is taurine genuinely a concern, or has the science been sensationalized by the media? Join us as we look at the science behind the headlines. Taurine was first isolated nearly 2 centuries ago in 1827, extracted from ox bile, giving it its name from the Latin taurus, meaning bull. Biochemically classified as a semi essential amino acid, taurine is naturally abundant in human tissues, particularly in muscles, the heart, the eyes, and the brain. Over the years, taurine has evolved from a simple discovery into a popular dietary supplement, well known and studied for its roles in supporting cardiovascular health, neurological function, and cellular protection against stress. Yet recently, taurine found itself at the center of controversy following sensationalist media coverage. Headlines from major outlets like Fox News, Vice, People Magazine, and the New York Post dramatically questioned, could your energy drink be feeding cancer, and warned about common energy drink ingredients linked to blood cancer, following a provocative new study that, as we'll see, likely did not intend for the media coverage that it received. This wave of alarming news was sparked by research published by scientists at the Wilmot Cancer Institute, University of Rochester Medical Center. The study showed how leukemia cells might exploit taurine to fuel their rapid growth. This caused mainstream media outlets to call into question taurine's role in health and disease. So let's unpack this step by step, looking at the science behind these alarming headlines. Researchers at the Wilmot Cancer Institute explored taurine's potential link into leukemia, a type of aggressive blood cancer. Their study looked at the bone marrow microenvironment, that's a specialized region within our bones used for the production of blood cells, including leukemia cells. Using advanced single cell analysis, the scientists observed that the bone forming cells, known as osteolineage cells, significantly increased taurine production during leukemia development in mice. Leukemia cells then took advantage of this heightened taurine availability by absorbing more taurine through a specific transporter protein called the taurine transporter, enabling the cancer cells to rapidly proliferate and sustain their elevated energy demands. To confirm taurine's involvement, researchers genetically blocked the enzyme responsible for taurine synthesis, that's cysteine deoxygenase type 1, specifically within these bone marrow cells of mice. This intervention notably impaired leukemia cell growth, dramatically reducing the cancer's ability to form colonies and markedly improving survival rates in these animal models. Additionally, the study demonstrated taurine's role in fueling leukemia cell metabolism. Specifically, taurine was essential for activating the mTOR signaling pathway, a central metabolic route allowing cancer cells to rapidly generate energy via glycolysis. Without sufficient taurine, this growth pathway was severely disrupted, limiting leukemia cells' growth and replication ability. Importantly, the findings from the mouse studies highlighted potential therapeutic applications. Blocking taurine uptake not only slowed leukemia progression, but also improved the effectiveness of established leukemia treatments, which the authors suggest might offer promising avenues for combination therapies in the future. In summary, the research predominantly conducted in mouse models identified taurine as a previously unrecognized yet significant player in leukemia progression. Now, while these findings have ignited widespread media attention, the reality of applying these findings to the general population, particularly those consuming dietary or supplemental taurine, whether from foods, supplements, or energy drinks, is much more nuanced. Importantly, the doses and experimental conditions in the leukemia study significantly differed from those relevant to typical human consumption. The study utilized advanced genetic manipulation to block taurine synthesis and transport, employing taurine concentrations and delivery methods that are not reflective of everyday dietary intake or typical supplement use. This context was largely overlooked by the mainstream media coverage, leading to a dramatic oversimplification and misinterpretation of the data, an interpretation that the authors of the study probably did not intend for. Moreover, the broader scientific literature paints a more complex and often opposing picture of taurine's role in cancer biology. For instance, another recent and detailed study published in the journal Cell demonstrated contrasting findings. Taurine supplementation in certain cancer models actually enhanced anti tumor immune responses. Specifically, this research highlighted that taurine helps restore the activity of exhausted CD8 plus T cells. Those are essential components of the immune system's natural defense against tumors. These T cells typically become compromised in the tumor microenvironment, but taurine supplementation was shown to reduce their exhaustion and increase the efficacy of cancer immunotherapies such as checkpoint inhibitors. These differing outcomes do show the complexity of nutrient interactions in cancer biology. Taurine's effects are evidently context dependent, influenced by specific tumor ages, stages, and interactions with the tumor microenvironment. Therefore, while the recent leukemia study provides compelling new insights, its findings cannot be generalized to suggest taurine broadly promotes cancer risk, especially at typical dietary or supplement intake levels. That being said, caution might be warranted in people with leukemia, but the same cannot be inferred about other cancer or in people with no evidence of cancer. In essence, the leukemia study reveals very interesting biochemical pathways and potential therapeutic targets involving taurine transport mechanisms, but the leap from these controlled experimental conditions to everyday human health recommendations requires far greater caution and interpretation than has been reflected in recent media narratives. Given the recent headlines, it's important to revisit taurine's established safety record and how regulatory bodies currently view its consumption. Historically, taurine has maintained a robust safety profile backed by decades of scientific evaluation. Human studies and clinical trials involving taurine supplementation, often at levels significantly higher than typical dietary intake, consistently report few, if any, adverse effects. Regulatory agencies worldwide, including the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, and the European Food Safety Authority, also known as EFSA, have classified taurine as safe when consumed within established daily intake guidelines. Typical supplemental doses range from 500 milligrams to 3 grams per day, sometimes even as high as 6 grams per day, numbers that would not achieve the exceptionally high concentrations that were achieved in the recent experimental leukemia model. Additionally, reviews by toxicology experts indicate taurine to be non mutagenic and non carcinogenic under normal human dietary conditions. Even in long term supplementation studies, taurine has not been linked to cancer progression or increased risk of cancer. Additionally, it's important to differentiate between taurine naturally present in the human body, where it fulfills essential physiological functions, and the manipulated experimental conditions used in this recent research that we just covered. Human tissues routinely maintain precise taurine concentrations necessary for cellular protection against stress, regulation of electrolyte balance, and other physiological processes. In summary, taurine's longstanding safety record remains largely unchallenged by regulatory bodies and current scientific inquiry. While emerging research into taurine's complex biological roles merits careful consideration and further investigation, current evidence strongly supports that typical dietary or supplemental taurine use poses no meaningful cancer risk to healthy individuals. While recent research has sparked significant discussion about taurine's potential role in leukemia progression, it's essential to recognize the differences between experimental conditions and typical human consumption. The leukemia study highlighted that taurine uptake could enhance cancer cell growth in specific laboratory models and animal studies, conditions vastly different from typical dietary or supplemental use. Importantly, extensive safety data and regulatory reviews consistently demonstrate that taurine, when consumed at recommended dietary or supplemental levels, remains safe and even beneficial. Indeed, other studies even suggest taurine might support anti cancer immune responses under certain conditions. What can we take away from this study? If you have pre existing leukemia, maybe hold off on high dose taurine supplementation. That's pretty much all we can take away from this right now. As always, balanced nutritional strategies and continued scientific exploration remain necessary in making informed health decisions. Thank you for joining me today on Daily Value. Until next time, stay curious and stay healthy.